going from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We're going to head straight on into the conversation this morning. Beyond the headlines, I wonder what does that mean? Of course, we're going to be having conversation this morning with the Honourable Minister Ayanna Webster-Roy as we talk about her role as a government minister, as an MP, and of course holding responsibility for one of the most important, I would think, ministries in Trinidad and Tobago. We're talking about gender and child affairs. Isn't that a very important ministry? Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna, and thanks for having me. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, and a pleasure to have you in studio with us this morning. And when you hear the term beyond the headlines, usually you just hear like the surface information. You just know that this person is an MP, this person is a minister, and they hold this responsibility. Sometimes you might hear about some of the initiatives, you might hear of, a certain amount of things. But beyond the headlines, we really want to get into who you are as a person, your role as an MP, your role as a minister, a government minister, and the responsibility given to you as the Minister of Gender and Child Affairs. So we're going to get straight into I know it's a lot. I know you took a deep breath there. I know it's a lot, but we want to get into the conversation primarily because we want to ensure viewers understand that in as much as the title might be a big one, it's still a human being. It's a person who is carrying this responsibility. And then there are so many things that are expected. Also measuring your successes and all of these things we're going to be discussing this morning on this program. So tell us about you being a member of Parliament, right? And also tie that into being the MP for Tobago East and how those two benefit the people of Tobago in your capacity.
So I took a deep breath when you were calling out the portfolio because you said a deeper look into who is Ayanna Webster-Roy, and I was waiting for you to say the mommy, the wife, the daughter, the sister.
That coming out.
All of that. But it is an awesome responsibility to hold the position of Member of Parliament for Tobago East. Being that I'm a resident of Tobago East, born and bred Tobago East young woman, if I could call myself a young woman still. And I think one of the best things about being an elected representative is seeing your advocacy bear fruit. When people reach out to you for various matters and to see you send your letters or you make your phone calls and at the end of the day you get a phone call back saying thank you. Your letter would have helped, or thank you, that phone call you made would have opened up a door of opportunity for me. So being a member of Parliament is not just about going down to Trinidad and sitting in Parliament, contributing to debates, or even sitting on GSCs and helping to interrogate your own government and the work that we do. It's about really meeting people where they are, trying to connect them with the right resources to help them to become more empowered, but also trying to create a better constituency. And for me, the fact that I grew up in Roxborough, I still live in my constituency, I still live in Tobago East, to see the development, the transformation over the years, not only in terms of physical infrastructure, but to see the development in terms of people development, to see how the constituency would have advanced, to see how children within the constituency are being able to enjoy their childhood while being able to access the right type of education, the right type of services that they require to become the best versions of themselves.
And being a personable person is very important, especially when you live in smaller communities, especially in the east side, people are very family oriented. I've noticed from my own observation that people in the east, you can't get in between those people. They're always band together no matter what. So how have you been able to use that to reach the people within the community to ensure all the things you spoke about in terms of accessing good education and developing infrastructure? How have you been able to use your personality to ensure that they are able to access all the things that are available through whether it is the ministry you're under or just in your constituency? How have you been able to do that?
I think one of the key things is to remain close to people and remain on the ground. So one of the things I've endeavor to do from day one is to continue walking the constituency and engaging people, talking to them and bringing the office to the people. But most importantly, being able to be approached and to be accessible. So, for example, most people look at me and they say I have a serious face. So, at the first glance, they are a bit intimidated. I remember a young guy came into my office and he said, "You know, it's a bit scary because you have a mislook." But when we were talking, I mislook. That's what he said. But when we were talking in the office, he said, "I could be real with you." He said, "No, you're real cool," because just being able to break it down and to treat people the way they want to be treated and to adapt to suit. So if you're speaking to somebody who is high society, then you adapt to your language the way you may bring across yourself to suit that person. But if you're just dealing with somebody on the block, a block boy, you come down to their level and you just be real with them. And that's what you try to do, make people feel comfortable to approach you within your space so that you could be of service to them. And that's the key thing. Being humble enough to open up yourself to be of service to people. And I want to just stress on something. Service is different from servitude. There's no shame in offering yourself to serve people and doing it to the best of your ability. It's not servitude, it's just open up yourself, being able to listen, being able to take critique when it's necessary, but using the information to always grow and develop. So when I go about and walk about and I call up people, I usually go to a field officer and I ask them, I said, is there anything I may be able to help you with? And my second thing is, or do you want to make recommendations how I could better serve you or how my office could better serve you and the area that we're working today? That's how I usually approach it.
And you see, I like how you broke it down there and you made a difference between service and servitude. And before I get into my line of questioning, in terms of service, what are some of the benefits you have derived personally from being in service to the people?
Personal benefits, I think learning to understand Ayanna and what matters most. Having to serve people and looking at the various needs, I've been able to identify what I'm most passionate about. So for me, in the constituency, people might tend to say, well, you do a lot of things for children. Because I realize that for me, it's building a stronger generation, the next generation, building and making sure that they are stronger so that they could take the foundation that we have laid for them and to go on to do even better and greater things. So investing in children and young people and helping them to, I like to use the word often, become the best version of themselves, because I know at the end of the day, all of Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago would benefit. So for me, being of service to people has helped me to understand me better, understand what makes me tick, gives me the motivation to get up and fight another day. Another direct benefit is getting to meet beautiful people every minute. You might go into a community and you might encounter somebody and you might think, that person looking a bit shady, but when you talk to them, you realize it's just a real person like you, with challenges, with needs, with aspirations, and just helping that person to connect with the right people, helping that person to understand something that they might have been lacking, and help them to get to that place where they say, I think I could overcome that, I think meeting people and getting to interact with so many different communities and people within communities has been a magnificent benefit of this job.
And I could feel your passion while you're talking. You could actually feel it here in studio. I want to talk about your role as a minister with the responsibility for gender affairs and child affairs.
And past and NAC.
Okay, roll it out. Tell us a little bit about your role, because we hear the term and we might be limited in what we think it is and the responsibilities that you hold. So just give us an overview as to what exactly your role entails and what you are responsible for.
Okay, so my portfolio is actually Central Administrative Services Tobago. So that was the first portfolio I was assigned when first elected in 2015, and then it grew beyond that. So Central Administrative Services Tobago, Gender and Child Affairs, and the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. Now, Central Administrative Services is with that sort of conduit between central government and the Tobago House of Assembly. And one of the key things that I've been proud of as member responsible for Central Administrative Services Tobago that we have been able to do year on year for young people in Tobago, that would be our summer internship program, where I shouldn't say summer, or July, August internship program. We don't have summer in Trinidad and Tobago. But we provide an opportunity for young people to get on the job training. And it's not just about the training, it's giving them the opportunity to put some money in their pocket when they're ready to go back out to school. So we usually cater for children who are in lower six going to upper six, or students who are in university, the first year going to the second year going to the third year, giving them the opportunity during the holidays to earn an income while preparing them for the world of work. And another passion of mine that we would have been able to bring back to life through CAST is the Republic Day celebrations in Roxborough. I mean, as a little girl growing up in Roxborough, I used to look forward to that, and then for some years it stopped, and when we were able to bring it back through CAST, the joy we brought to children in Tobago East, the fact that you could see your friends parading through the streets of Roxborough, your relatives, it brought a sense of pride back to the constituency and to the people. So those are two of the key things that I'm really proud of at CAST. At Gender and Child Affairs, we are responsible for the coordination of the national response to children in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as we are the focal point in terms of mainstreaming gender in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'll separate child and I'll separate gender. At Child Affairs, we would have been able to roll out a national policy for children. And when we did that, we were amongst the first in the Caribbean to have a national child policy. Coming out of our national child policy, which is being implemented, we have done a number of initiatives. So you've seen us rolling out our Child Rights Ambassadors program, or You Report initiative, getting young people to help to inform policy by sharing their voice, their opinions, different activities in schools and in communities. This year in particular, this fiscal year, we placed a lot of emphasis on mental health and ensuring that our children are in the right mental space, because we recognize that in Trinidad and Tobago, even though we have readily accessible services, in most instances, we saw where our children were struggling, especially coming out of COVID. So we placed a lot of emphasis on their mental health and well-being. We also, under the Child Affairs portfolio, would manage the children's home in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as we have the responsibility for the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. What we have now as a coordinating mechanism under the Child Affairs Division is the National Standing Committee on Child Protection that brings together various ministries and agencies as we work towards strengthening and coordinating issues around child abuse prevention, ensuring that we have the right framework in place to safeguard and protect our nation's children. And I want to reassure Tobago in particular that within that Standing Committee on Child Protection, we have the Tobago House of Assembly represented through at least two key divisions: the Division of Education, Research and Technology, as well as the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. And the Chief Administrator is also there, as well as the administrators. And I want to thank the Tobago House of Assembly for the excellent collaboration that we have been having across the two islands in terms of strengthening the childcare and protection system. In terms of the gender portfolio now, when we talk about gender, people always think it's a woman's issue, but it's not. When we speak about gender, we talk about ensuring there's equity and equality, and that the lives of men, women, boys and girls are impacted positively. So we look at the various policies and initiatives coming out of government to make sure that they are streamlined in such a way that our men, women, boys and girls benefit. And in most instances, when we discuss issues around gender, and because if you look at gender-based violence, for an example, women are usually the primary victims. We have the higher reports of incidents of gender-based violence. You will see a lot of work and effort going into putting mechanisms in place to provide shelter services to women and training and so forth. But I want to again remind the public it's more than that. It's ensuring there's equality and equity and that we create a gender-just society. Just recently, we would have launched the Umbono system. That is our registry system for instances of gender-based violence in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm extremely proud that we were able to do that in-house at the Gender and Child Affairs Division. So kudos to our IT people. And what that does now, it gives me, as well as those persons who need to get the information, a real life picture of what's happening on a day-to-day basis in terms of the reports coming in. So, for example, in the month of January, when my PS was sharing with me the information that was coming in, we saw where in Trinidad and Tobago, while most of the communities were trending yellow, meaning we had reports coming in. For me, it was quite alarming when some communities in Tobago started trending orange, meaning that we were getting a higher level of reporting in terms of issues around gender-based violence. And for me, it prompted me to ask my peers, okay, what can we do? How can we intervene? Because Tobago, if you look at us, we depend heavily on tourism. And we want when people come to our island for them to feel safe. We want our residents to feel safe so that they can become part of the voice of markets in Tobago. And if we are trying to put out the idea that we want Tobago to be the greatest little island on the planet, then for that to happen, every resident of Tobago must feel safe and secure. And the first place you must feel safe and secure is within your own home, within your own space, and then by extension within your community setting, and then island-wide. So that for me was alarming, and it prompted me to tell my peers, you know what, how can we further collaborate with the Tobago House for them to see how we could address this very sensitive matter where we've seen that yes, communities in Trinidad are holding yellow where the reports are coming in, but we are seeing where some of our communities in Tobago, the colors change towards orange. That's not a good sign.
And you know, after implementing these types of programs and initiatives, and especially being able to track and record the reports coming in, how have you seen the benefits for the residents, especially in the Tobago East instance? How have you seen them being able to benefit from the programs? And this, especially this last one you just spoke about, for me also is very concerning. How have they been able to benefit from those things that you have implemented?
So, for example, in terms of we could see real time the data in terms of the calls coming in and the types of incidents that are being reported. It gives us a better chance to respond effectively and immediately. So, for example, over the Christmas period, I would have received a call from a particular community, from a particular religious leader in that community. And the fact that that call came in and it was in Tobago East, I was able to reach out quickly to the Secretary for Health, Wellness and Social Protection and say, hey, this is a matter. I will have received the call because they recognize I'm Minister for Gender, but it falls within your responsibility to Tobago, and see how we could collaborate and coordinate to ensure that the matter was resolved and intervention would have taken place. I am proud that when we recognize that we have instances of gender-based violence and persons would have been impacted, and primarily women would have been impacted. A lot of the services that we were offering in Trinidad, we were able to bring to Tobago and by extension Tobago East. So last year we had a Women's Empowerment Forum at the Bell Garden Community Center, where we brought up stakeholders from Trinidad as well as stakeholders from within the THA and providing opportunity for women who might have been survivors or women who just want an opportunity to get the right information to become more empowered, were able to meet in this space. We had different representatives from the THA Division of Health, from Social Welfare, from Gender and Child Affairs in Trinidad, from financial institutions, etc. And we also had in space at that point in time somebody who would have been able to offer counseling for those who needed the counseling on the spot, immediate attention. So it's bringing the services not only just for benefit Tobago East. What I've tried to do consistently is whatever we're doing in Trinidad to ensure that we collaborate with the Tobago House of Assembly to make sure that all of Tobago benefits. It makes no sense if I do something and just do it in Tobago East, because I don't just live there. My children don't just stay in the constituency. They have to come out and interact. So we have to make sure that whatever we're doing, it impacts the entire island so that we all become stronger together, that we all become safer together, so that all of us would be able to thrive within this beautiful space that we call our home.
Absolutely amazing, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with the Honourable Ayanna Webster-Roy, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and holding responsibility for gender affairs, child affairs, Affairs, CAS, and remind me of the last one,
National
AIDS Coordinating Committee as well, talking about, all the projects that have been implemented so far, and we're going to come back and continue conversations. So you want to be a part of that conversation this morning. But before we go to a quick break, this is your photo of the day, courtesy Xavier. I hope I am pronouncing your name properly. Xavier Roberts. Xavier Roberts is the one who submitted this photo, and this is right on the coast of Pigeon Point, heading into Pigeon Point there. Beautiful, beautiful photo this morning. So take this with you as we go to a short break. But in the meantime, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live.
Good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. You know, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be bringing information to you about things happening in and around Tobago, and of course having you as part of the conversation as we learn together, as we grow together, and of course as we have the discussions about things we need to know about happening here in Tobago. We continue conversations in studio this morning as we speak with the Honourable Ayanna Webster-Roy, as we continue talking about her roles and responsibility as a government minister. And of course, they were one of those categories we didn't talk about before the break. So we're going to get a little insight on that one as well.
So the National AIDS Coordinating Committee, as Minister, I'm responsible for the coordination of the national response to HIV and AIDS. And the NAC has been doing some tremendous work in terms of public education and sensitization. And because I'm a Tobago, I often say to them, whatever we're doing, we must include Tobago. So I remember recently they were doing some outreaches to various police youth clubs in Trinidad, and they would have also done outreach in Tobago. I know them working with the Mount St. George Police Youth Club, empowering the young people of the youth club, giving them information and so forth. And during the carnival period, they're supposed to be doing what they call pant and crawl, going out to the pantons and giving information so that we all become part of the national response to ending HIV and AIDS by 2030. So we look out for them in Tobago as well. But it's ensuring that all our citizens have the opportunity to live long, healthy lives, and despite their status, still being able to live and to contribute towards national development.
Right, and now that we know all of these things, that you manage all of these different responsibilities, what are some of your projections in terms of initiatives and programs that you're hoping to roll out to deal with some of the social issues that we face in communities in Tobago? And of course, I will stay in Tobago because that's where I reside. You know, what are some of the plans that you have that you want to ensure, like these issues under the umbrella of that you hold as a minister? How are we going to meet those issues, managing the resources that we have available to us?
And I want to start off with issues around children. As I said, we as a National Standing Committee on Child Protection, and one of the items on the agenda for Tobago is how do we embark on a research into disabilities and children with disabilities in Tobago and the provision of services for them. And that will be supported by the central government, of course, with this collaboration with the Tobago House of Assembly. We are also looking at the provision of mental health services in Tobago for children again, because we have a number of young children who people might think that they're just bad or whatever, but if you do the proper assessment, you may recognize that there might be underlying mental health issues. Again, that is something through the National Standing Committee on Child Protection that we are working with the Tobago House of Assembly for us to see how we could lend some support there. And I must take the opportunity to thank those agencies that help us. We talked about resources. I have been fortunate as minister over the years to get tremendous support from various international bodies to help us to roll out the work that we are doing, not only in Trinidad, but some of the work we are doing in Tobago. So I want to salute agencies such as the United Nations system, UN Women, UNICEF, those various agencies. We've gotten tremendous support from the European Union, as well as some of the embassies in Trinidad and high commissions in terms of the work that we are doing. In terms of Tobago East and in terms of the development of the constituency, I spoke earlier about helping people develop, and I think that we are ripe for investment in the constituency. And for me, it's working alongside constituents to start establishing various types of cooperatives so we could benefit from our natural gifts and talents. So, for example, in areas around food production and agro-processing, how can we pull our various talents together and hone our skills and our talents to create cooperatives so that our women in particular would benefit from those skills that they have picked up through the community development classes offered by the Tobago House of Assembly, or even those offered through the Ministry of Sports and Community Development by Minister Shamfa Kojo-Lewis as well. Also working with community groups to become more empowered to access resources, helping them to become registered so that they could use their talents, their abilities, what they're passionate about to help to transform our community and our Tobago East space. So, for example, I remember when we were doing the Spotlight Initiative, there were a number of grant funding opportunities to particularly target issues around women and gender in our communities and ending gender-based violence within our homes. And we couldn't get as many organizations in Tobago to benefit from them because they might not have been properly registered, or they know how to do the proposal writing and so on. So for me, it's working with various agencies, working with those private sector organizations within the constituency and outside of the constituency, that we will be willing to invest in Tobago East, that we empower our community-based organizations or civil society so that they can help us to advance the constituency and help it to grow. I am passionate, even though my husband's laughed at me and say, I don't know what kind of farmer you are. I am passionate about agriculture. I did agriculture in high school as one of my subjects, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. Being able to feed yourself. We don't know when the next pandemic might come and the place might have to shut down, but helping people in Tobago is to understand the importance of being able to grow at least some of the things that you need to survive, and seeing how I could partner with those persons who might have access to large portions of land, who may be willing to enter into a venture where we create, I want to say, living food gardens, so people could access food in times of natural disasters, or in times of medical, if I could call it that, medical disaster, in times of pandemic, that at least, there is still that ability to feed ourselves within Tobago East.
Mm-hmm. And, in terms of collaboration, because we did mention the support that you get from external agencies who support, what about local home-based agencies? Have you been getting the measure of collaboration, or have you made any approach or any discussions in terms of our local, whomever they are, whether they are businessmen, people who own things in the community, to come together to empower a community by community, or, how?
Actually, that would have started. I remember being approached by two young persons who own a tax and consultancy firm in Tobago, and they said, I started an initiative called Stakeholder Engagement Forum, where we were bringing different business people, agencies together and talking in different communities, and he would have noticed that. And Robley Baines Tax and Accountancy would have come on board offering free workshops in the constituency for persons who were interested in either opening a business or expanding a business. So that's something that we've already started in the constituency, and we will continue to do, partner with different persons. I want to give kudos to people on the island who would have responded to the call for us to help to create a safer Tobago for our women. So I want to highlight Tabitha's Home and the work that they have been doing, and they're reaching out to Gender and Child Affairs to get the support and the funds to do some of the work that they've been doing on the island. I want to recognize Women of Substance for some of the work that they have been doing on the island as well. I remember when we had that initiative in Belgarden at the Center for Women, Women of Substance would have been one of those Tobago-based civil society organization that would have stepped forward and helped us to find the persons to come, as well as to provide the services on the day. So we have been partnering, we'll continue to partner. And I want to take this opportunity to really thank my staff at the constituency office, because as minister, you are called in many different directions, but they are often on the ground engagement persons and helping to ensure that the office is always relevant and right there to provide support. And then I also want to give my thanks to the various PSs. about 4 PSs. So my PS at CAST, for being willing whenever I bring initiatives on board to support my PS at Gender and Child Affairs, whenever I say we can't leave Tobago behind, that they're willing to put the investment, even though our resources might be limited, to do our national programs to make sure that we still have the opportunity to do things in Tobago. And by extension, I want to also thank those THA representatives, those secretaries who have been open to partnership, the ones that would have responded to the call, the ones who see beyond the colors of I'm wearing, and to see the passion behind the work, and have always been willing to support and to help to advance Tobago East.
I think, all of this sounds very, very so engaging, and encapsulating, and you delivering the information with such passion, as I mentioned in the earlier segment. And I always welcome collaboration, because at the end of the day, we all reside in the same space. Exactly. We all use the resources. If not me, then somebody I know, or somebody who's near and dear to me. So I always, appreciate that collaborative effort. And I do hope, as you continue with your projections, that the collaboration continues. Definitely. And we can continue to reap the benefits of the programs and initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with the Honourable Ayanna Webster-Roy, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for Gender Affairs, Child Affairs, CAST, and also the National AIDS Coordinating Committee, right? Wearing so many different hats, a very large umbrella there, and of course talking about her projections for, the coming term in office there, and ensuring that the deliverables are, of benefit to persons in Trinidad and Tobago, with a focus and an emphasis on Tobago. Before we go for a short break, we have something for you. This photo, can you tell us where this is? This is back in the day. Yep, back in the day photo, we call this one, and we're hoping that you are able to tell us where this photo is. It was taken in 1877, yes, and it takes us back to a time when the sturdy warehouses made of brick and native limestone once fronted the beach at the Tobago's capital. Yes, in this building they used to produce the sugar estates. They were stored there until they were ready to be exported to England, and hardware for estates imported. Yes, at least one of these structures still survives and has been repurposed. During the economic recession following the collapse of the West India Bank in 1847, these once bustling buildings stood silent and empty as produce fell and the plantations were abandoned. And this photo is courtesy Angelo Bisesar Singh of the Virtual Museum of Trinidad and Tobago. You've got to guess where this was. So by the time we come back from the break, I do hope that somebody figures out where this photo was taken. We have to go for a short break as we continue conversations in studio with Ayanna Webster-Roy when we get back. But in the meantime, we are going to ask you to help.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. Were you able to guess that photo? Can you guess? Guess what? My guest in studio, right after we went to the break, she was like, I know where that is, and actually gave a description of the buildings that are still standing there. So can you guess? Please drop your answer on our Facebook live stream if you know the answer. But if you don't, before we end, I will tell you where that photo was taken. Yes, look at it closely. You might be able to identify some of the things there that are still standing. Remember, we said that some of the structures is still there, so you might be able to identify it. All right, we continue conversations this morning. It's now 7:54 a.m. So if you're getting yourself to work for 8 a.m., you might be a little bit late, but remember to drive safely on our nation's roads, because we want you to get there in one piece. Right, we continue conversations this morning, and we speak with the Honourable Ayanna Webster-Roy, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, holding the responsibility for Gender Affairs, Child Affairs, CAST, and the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. I got it right this time. And we're going to switch gears a little bit. We know that you're a minister, a government minister, and we know this is an election year. And you have been nominated and selected, successfully screened to represent Tobago East again. What is it like for you after completing your term in office and now heading into another term with all these initiatives and ideas that you have? How do you feel about your success in the past and your projections for the new coming term?
When I reflect on the last 10 years and my contribution as Member of Parliament for Tobago East, I feel extremely proud. In the first 5 years, we saw a lot of physical infrastructure development going into the constituency, helping Tobago East to to stand side by side with Tobago West boldly and bravely saying, yes, we're developing our infrastructure so that our people could feel good about themselves and to be able to access services within the constituency. And as we moved into my second term, I focused on people, helping to develop our people through our initiatives provided through the constituency office, through partnerships, as I would have mentioned, Robley-based tax and consultancy, providing those free workshops and so on, but also touching people where it matters the most. So bringing water to communities throughout Tobago East. I mean, almost every corner of the constituency, some project would have happened in terms of improving access to water in the constituency and the community. I want to mention the work that we have done recently to improve access to public transportation for communities such as Charlottesville, Lansome, Castara, and Bloody Bay. I mean, it's an ongoing process, but I've been in constant talks with PTSC, their board of management, as well as some of the managers in PTSC to improve the services. So, for example, where we saw some of the bus weren't working properly on the terrain to go into Lansome and so forth, we saw where they established that concession using maxi taxis to, to supplement the service and to ensure that persons could access, the transportation through PTSC to go about their business and to ensure that Charlottesville, persons going to Charlottesville who have to leave Scarborough to get to Charlottesville later in the evening, that they have that access. I remember being at the awards function for RSS Phoenix and Mr. Thorne presenting our grandmother, because she was present for every training session with her grandchild, and he said one of the challenges that she was facing is that 6:30 bus, and right there on the spot, I messaged PTSC, and I felt so proud when I saw that service being reintroduced, because I realized it was not just helping that grandmother to access the Dwight York Stadium to watch her grandchildren train, but it was helping to keep her family together, provide that opportunity for a family bonding. Bus ride up, you could talk, you could review your day, and helping our family, and by helping our family, you help our community. I'm looking forward to seeing Tobago East transform even more under my guidance as Member of Parliament. We have done great things together, and we have so much more to look forward to. But most importantly, I want to ensure that the Tobago East that I grew up in as a little girl in the 80s in Roxborough, being able to go out and run around whole day and feel comfortable, that my children and their children would be able to have that type of Tobago East. So as we move forward, as we look to the future, and as we develop, as we advance, I want to encourage my constituents for us to hold on to those core values that make us uniquely Tobago East people, country people. Those values of hard work, those values of honesty, discipline, productivity, but most importantly, let us mind each other's business so that our constituency remains safe. In the last year, I was hurt to see for the first time Tobago East being impacted by gun violence and gang violence. And I want to tell my constituents, we are better than that. Let us ensure that whoever is coming into our communities, that we mind the business, know who you're coming to, why you're here, what you're doing, how you're going to impact our children. And together we could ensure that Tobago East remains a beautiful, advanced, secure community where our children have the ability to live their best lives, where they feel safe and secure.
And earlier in the preamble, before we were on camera, you were telling me you're hoping to hear me talk about the children and the mother and the wife. And how do you balance all of your responsibilities, being all of those things, being an MP, having to, respond to the nation on any matter under your umbrella, having to respond to your husband, having to be there for your children, having to be there for your community? How do you balance all of it to ensure every single role you hold, there is a measure of success?
God, I might not be very religious, but I'm a very spiritual person. So I would pray and I would fast, especially when I encounter things that I just think that Ayanna cannot handle. I would go to God in prayer. But I have a very strong support system. I want to thank my parents, the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, my siblings. I want to thank my husband. Kevin is a real champ, because I don't think a lot of men will put up with. For weeks, your wife might be gone and you managing the house and managing everything. So Kevin is a real champ. And I want to salute my children. They are very resilient. For me, the greatest mark to know if you're doing a good job is when other people tell you about the quality of your children. So, for example, I was waiting for, I think it was my husband to pick me up from the airport, and I was standing in front the terminal right there down at Crown Point, and a gentleman came up to me, and he said, "You're doing a good job with your children." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You have a daughter, and she's in my wife's class, and she speaks highly of her. She said your daughter is humble. She has a lot of manners, and she's hardworking." And I said, "Really?" I said, "I'm going to tell Kiona that she made me proud today." And I get that feedback from my other daughter as well. Keiko, she's a little mess. but when people talk about her, they talk about her humility and her respect. And even though Keiko is a national athlete, she plays netball at the national level, Keiko is still grounded. And Kamali, knockwood, one of my greatest fears now as a mom is raising a son in these times. I was said to somebody recently, it was so much easier to raise girls because the influences, but now seeing in Tobago, we see more gang violence and so on, and having a young boy who is young and impressionable and interacting with everybody, it frightens me. Sometimes I would think about my son and get little mini panic attacks. This is real. And then I have to say, Ayanna, remember, you're doing stuff to fix that. You're actually doing programs, you're doing things nationally, doing things all of Tobago to help to fix that. You're collaborating with the right people to fix that. And that gives me a measure of comfort. But I want to just thank them. I want to thank my children for staying the course, for being the ones to tell me, "Mommy, go again." The first time we dip my finger, let me dip my finger for Mommy. I want to thank my husband for saying, "You know what? I have your back. I will support you if this is what you want." I want to thank my parents and my siblings for putting up with all the various versions of Ayanna. The crazy version, the sometimes rude version, the sometimes very emotional version, but loving me through it and guiding me through it. And I want to thank my constituents. Those of you who would reach out and offer a word of prayer. Those of you who sometimes reach out and buff me because I see you put down a performance in Parliament. That's not the Ayanna we said now. I appreciate it all, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity to serve you, and I look forward to serving again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it. You have heard it right here on Tobago Updates Television from the Honourable Ayanna Webster-Roy, Government Minister, MP for Tobago East. And of course, she is putting herself forward for election again for this year's general election and hoping for the best there. And, you know, we spoke about the projections, the things that we can expect should she be successful, what we can expect in Tobago East. And of course, we know the collaboration there benefits all of Tobago. Before we go, we have to end the morning show, but before we go, I'm going to give you the honor, or at least the honor is mine, to ask you to tell our viewers where that photo was taken.
That photo is actually at the port and where customs is now. I saw the arches.
That's correct. That's where that photo was taken, and those buildings are still standing strong, you know. And so I hope you viewers guessed it this morning, and we'll keep those photos coming, bringing back the nostalgia to you here on Tobago Updates Television. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we have to end the morning show, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, and as we go, we invite you to help us share the live. Coming up tomorrow, let me not forget, coming up tomorrow, yes, on Beyond the Headlines, we have Minority Councillor Petal Daniel Benoit. Yes, she's on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So you want to be part of that conversation as well to see what is taking place there. So don't miss it. Stay with us as we bring the conversations right home to you. In the meantime, we do hope you have a wonderful day, and do stick around for GMT.